Hi there, okay everyone. I'm back here again with another story from the Seriously Sexy range. This is from Seriously Sexy 2, book of which looks like this, also from 2008. On the cover we have what looks like Marge Simpson in her sussies and lingerie there. Why they adopted to have a woman with her skin painted, well, tanned, not painted, but it's obviously done in on a computer, painted yellow. I have no idea, but I always thought it looked like Marge Simpson because you can't see her hair. It's obviously all up here, but yeah, very, very confusing. But yeah, Seriously Sexy 2 from Excite Books again. Run you through a couple of the other authors that are in this 20 erotic stories. There's Donna George Story, who's quite a well-known erotic author. There's Ava Hoare, there's Summer Marsden, and you might have heard of Landon Dixon. Izzy French is in there. For some reason Ava Hoare has 2 stories I've only just noticed. The Liberty, honestly, cheeky. But yeah, Ava Hoare has 2 stories in here, which I hadn't realised before. My story is called High Tea Suburbia, and it's set in Notting Hill. And it's inspired by true events, or it's inspired by a particular person, but that person does not live in Notting Hill. I set it in Notting Hill because that's where I was living at the time, and I wanted to get the essence of the Westbourne Grove, Portobello Road area that I was living at the time. But the person that, in the book she's called Kim, she's not called Kim, even though her name begins with a K, is a real person and completely the other side of London, down near Greenwich. And it's inspired by her, it is my tribute to her, and this is one of the rare times in a book like this where you'll see or hear or read that there's no penetrative sex at all in the story. And what I wanted to do was write something where you didn't need the whole, to get to the end of the story. Things can be erotic without having the whole major, process of sexual intercourse. So I thought that was important. I wanted to do something like that. So I looked into other things that kind of aroused me and everything. And this Kim person, whose name's not Kim but with a K, inspired me to write something that actually happened. But again, not in Notting Hill, down in Bexley Heath of all places. So again, this is from 2008, from Seriously Sexy 2, and it's called High Tea in Suburbia, and it's my tribute to the ladies of Notting Hill as well. So enjoy. Okay. I have this friend. Her name is Kim. I see her once a week on a Tuesday evening, in the couple of hours between a book club meeting and her husband arriving home. Her husband knows all about me. She told him quite recently. She's a good 15 to 20 years older than me, and I'm 30. She is tall and demure, blonde hair, ample bosom, simple hips, and a curvy bottom. You know those women who hold themselves like they went to school with one of the Mitford sisters and wear it like a badge? Well, that's how Kim is. Prim, polite, and asking the vicar if he would like more tea. Time has also been good to her for a near 50-year-old too. Despite what she calls life's collateral damage, in reference to the excess skin she had collected over the years from giving birth to her 3 children. She has warned me that a similar fate will eventually befall me, although without certain advances in medical science I'm not sure how that will happen. I met her about a year ago. I remember it well. It was at this high-end deli called Ottolenghi on Ledbury Road, in the affluent part of West London, Suburbia I walk through on my way to work. In fact, it's still our little private joke when we see each other. Now, during those awkward pauses and when we're getting dressed, we think back and laugh about how we peppered each other with curious glances over the bowls of sautéed peppers, mushrooms, and 30 different types of potato salad. As I stepped out onto the leafy residential avenue moments later to rummage through the embossed paper bag for my overpriced sandwich, I noticed that Kim was all sixes and sevens with her basket on the front of her traditional Patchley Princess bicycle. She fiddled with the chain lock before stuffing it into the wicker basket over the front wheel and putting on her helmet. She saw me, and again we exchanged smiles, and we decided to wait before setting off to Portobello. She looked as if she was about to pedal away, then glanced at me once more. I nodded and rolled my eyes in a very naughty way. She looked away haughtily and started to rotate the pedals. I thought fast. There was only one thing I could think of to say. "I'll race you if you like," I chuckled, realising that I was giving her the opportunity to make me look like a right idiot just by pushing off and leaving me behind on the pavement. I'm sure this crossed her mind too. She paused with a hint of a smile on her face. "Where would you race me to?" she asked, warming to my cheeky charm, I hoped. "Anywhere," I replied. She looked slightly alarmed. Perhaps she realised that she was being chatted up, possibly for the first time in years. She glanced me up and down in what I am convinced was wonderment. "Oh dear," I thought, "you've gone too far this time." She was wearing that expression that said, "God, you're young enough to be my son." She sighed and looked around for anyone she knew. The coast was clear, so she signalled me for her to join her. We walked as she pushed her bicycle to an outlet of a coffee chain on Westbourne Grove. As I queued and offered lattes, Kim chained her bike to a lamppost and found a table. I turned with my hands full and noticed her sitting bolt upright and felt a bit guilty about the lascivious thoughts swelling through my head. Why would a woman like her want me, I pondered, or was she just being polite? My lust, fueled by my long-standing penchant for older women, was not deterred though, as I admired her in her light. Flowery summer dress and white tennis shoes. I saw that she held her knees together and had her hands placed demurely on her lap. The conversation soon turned to those thoughts in my head. She didn't mess about and clearly wanted to get down to brass tacks. She started to berate me even before the head of my posh coffee had been disturbed. "I hope you realise that I have absolutely no plans to let you fuck me." I paused, hot beverage in mouth. I smiled. I was ever so slightly flattered that she had at least thought about it, but I was worried about twitching the ears of people at the neighbouring tables. "I hadn't asked," I said quietly, "yet." "Well, don't be getting any of those ideas, young man, because I'm a happily married woman." She nodded to herself in agreement. "Right then," I sipped my coffee with a defeated sigh. We glanced at each other as we returned our cups to their saucers and leaned back in our chairs. "So why did you come then?" I asked her. Her eyebrows rose as she contemplated her answer. "You intrigue me, and one assumes that considering your boldness, enough to almost proposition a woman, particularly someone like me, in the street like you did, you're a man who likes to dominate." "Well, I take it you like to spank your women too." "Actually, no. I'm more of a submissive. I'm sorry." "Sorry?" she bellowed with a hearty bray, before leaning forward towards me and patting my thigh. "Oh, darling, don't worry. We're going to get you on splendidly." "Earl Grey, okay?" she said as she dropped her keys next to a bowl of potpourri on her hall table. She untangled herself from the pashmina around her shoulders, and I ran my eyes across her bare shoulders and over her breasts. My chest started to pound. I was surprised how snug the almost cottage-like terrace opened up from the inside. I hadn't realised that places like this existed. I walk past houses like this every day, without even a thought of what might be inside. I stepped back towards the front door. An oak door to my right was ajar, and through it I could make out a piano in the vast room above. I walked over to it and saw some Mozart sheet music open and some scribbling and alterations made on it. She ushered me into the kitchen and seated me at a recently stripped wooden table. I had an urge to flick through the open newspaper, but thought twice when I realised it was the Daily Mail. "What do you do?" "Me? I work in a bookshop and write. I love to be able to do it all the time, but bills have to be paid, you know. My son is a freelance journalist. I hear all about it." "Tell me about your husband," I inquired. "George is a brilliant man. He's in the city. Hedge funds. Wastes his life down there. I'll be so glad when he finally hangs up that tie and briefcase and we can actually get on with our marriage." I nodded, slightly distracted. "The thing is, he's a terrible fuddy-duddy. Always has been. Thinks it's the Oxford in him, personally. If we had met over in Canberra's, I might have been able to bring out his wilder side. I tried to laugh, but it was really another world to me. What I'm trying to say is that he doesn't fulfill me sexually. You understand? My ears pricked up, and she had my full attention. The sex always dies after a while, though, I sympathised. No, that's not what I mean. I had already guessed what this was all about, but I was just being polite, really. He won't let you spank him? Exactly, my dear. Or vice versa, which I don't mind myself. Honestly, though, you hear all these stories from professional mistresses about how all their clients are captains of industry and company executives and love having the power taken away from them, whereas mine is not all interested in giving his wife a little pain for pleasure. She continued to talk to me as she moved back to the boiling kettle. I watched her as she kicked off her shoes, her dainty feet leaving the slight impression of bare soles on the tiled floor. I stared at the floor as she poured the water. She wiped her brow. The sweat marks on the floor soon disappeared, and the submissive in me wanted to search for her scent trail on my hands and knees. I wondered what it would be like to smell of her. What is it? She snapped, as I drifted off into a reverie. You have lovely feet. Ah, footman, huh? I nodded as our eyes locked together. She carried over the tea tray and smiled wickedly to herself. I knew it, I could tell. My last plaything was a foot lover. Do you want to know what I made him do? I nodded respectfully. She took a ceramic pot and placed it in front of me. She arranged the cups and saucers meticulously between us. The milk, the sugar bowl. They were all correct, and I imagined just how they should be laid out. There were ginger biscuits arranged neatly on a side plate. I could already smell the infusion of bergamot. She wagged her finger at me, beckoning me as she backed away from the table. She stopped in the middle of the kitchen floor, the exact part of the floor she had crossed when I noticed her feet. I stood facing her, towering over her. Strip, she demanded. Everything. I needed no more encouragement. A beautiful and smart older woman putting me in my place. She leaned back on the black marble counter behind her and watched me undress until I stood before her, naked as the day I was born. Wonderful boy, she grinned as she took in what I had. Now kneel. I obliged. She held out her leg and pointed her foot, not unlike a ballerina. She ran her toe up my chest and the lines of my neck to my ear, and then it hovered over my mouth. I turned slightly and put out my tongue for her. "Na-ha-ha," she gasped. "Not yet, you're mine to play with." I closed my mouth obediently and let her continue. The sole of her foot pressed against my lips, and I was treated to a toenail tickling one of my nostrils. The scent of her very being, filled my senses, and I devoured her taste. She rubbed the ball of her foot into my nose and over one eye before scratching down the middle of my chest, stopping at my crotch. My legs parted for her, and she started to bat playfully at my balls. She continued to lean back on the counter and demanded I should lean back on the floor behind me so she had a full view of me. She lifted the front of her skirt and rubbed her crotch. She continued to knead my flaccid cock with her toes. She placed her foot on my chest and pushed me back until I was flat on my back and looking up at the ceiling. Again with her foot in my face, she instructed me to open my eyes and watch her masturbate. I had a view right up her skirt and to her ugly grey panties. I could see that she was enjoying my looking at her. That was enough for me to harden down below. She commented on it. "My, what a gifted young man you are." I laughed, not feeling in any way uncomfortable. She purred delicately. She held her soul to my closed mouth for me to savour and rubbed away gently at herself with two lean fingers until she was satisfied. She walked over to the table and poured herself a cup of the Earl Grey. "Okay down there?" She directed her question to where I was still lying beneath her. "Yes, absolutely." Actually, I was reminded of my state by a draught from the hallway. "Good. Go to my room. I'm just getting started." I clambered to my feet as she rummaged in the drawer of her nearby dresser. "And take this, I might have a use for it." She handed me a long wooden ruler, the kind she probably used to go to school. I like the look of this." She sipped at the porcelain cup. "You won't be doing much looking at it. You'll be feeling it soon." I grinned, happy that I'd found a kindred spirit. "Go top of the stairs, second door on the right," she ordered. "I will join you when I have had my tea and finished reading the paper." She turned away from me and took a seat, her back still straight. I scurried away obediently. Okay, so that was High Tea in Suburbia from Seriously Sexy 2. Again, I'll post, if you want a copy of the book, I will post a link in the bottom there. You probably only get it from Amazon, you probably won't find it in the bookshops. Although the Seriously Sexy range I've seen in branches of Ann Summers, so if you've got a local Ann Summers, go there. They still might have the Seriously Sexy range. They'll definitely, if they don't have Seriously Sexy, they will definitely have some other Excite books in there that I've seen. And otherwise, if you like this, click on the subscribe button, and hopefully we'll see you again. Okay, thanks a lot.